Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. Hey, hop on over to MrProductivity.com, M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. I got a bunch of goodies there. Just check it out now or after the episode. My guest today, Mitchell Levy. He's a global credibility expert, a two-time TEDx speaker, an executive coach who has authored a mere 65 international bestsellers. That's it. I mean, reach for the stars, Mitchell. As a certified clarity specialist and one of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 coaches, Mitchell helps professionals and organizations articulate their purpose, get this, in 10 words or less, enhancing their credibility and personal brand. Mitchell, welcome to the show.
Mark, it is great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We connected on LinkedIn a number of years ago. We've DM'd each other. We've gotten on phone calls. And I said, you got to come on my show because you are a wealth of information. And I'm excited for what we're going to talk about in our time together.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too. Just remind me what. No, I'm just kidding.
No, well, listen, I got the perfect question to start off because you are a man of clarity. So you are known. Now, people, if you don't know him, go find him on LinkedIn. You're known for helping people express their purposes in just 10 words or less, which is unbelievable. Brevity. So tell us why you believe clarity is so crucial in today's professional landscape.
Short answer is nobody has it. You ask somebody who they are and what they do, and you get so much gobbledygook. It's hard to put your arms around it. Having interviewed over 500 thought leaders on credibility, I helped fine-tune a structured approach where one can get clarity. Now, here's the interesting part. I learned a lot of secrets about clarity. I learned a lot of secrets about credibility. And because I did 500 interviews on credibility, I thought I needed to sell credibility. And so I spent 3.5 years helping people become more credible. And it was about a year ago when I recognized I was making the same mistake that 98% of business people make. And that is, I was starting with credibility. And the answer is, you really need to start with clarity. Because if you start with clarity, everything else becomes absolutely simple. And it allows you to show up much more credibly.
100%. And you did give me a tagline, which at first I was kind of like, it's kind of short, but it actually tells people what I do. Because to your point, we've all gone to networking events. We've all seen people on social media and we're like, who are you? And they do this Ernest Hemingway speech. It's like, I'm sorry, what do you do again? And your specialty is to get that really short because our attention spans are shorter than the goldfish now, according to a Microsoft survey. So do you mind sharing you may not remember, but do you remember what you gave me for mine?
I do.
Oh,
now,
wow.
do you want, well, I did when I looked it up because as soon as you said it, I looked up your name and go, oh yeah. And by the way, a little bit of not being credible. I should have looked it up ahead of time. So thank you for that. But yours was, let's see, 1, 2, 5 words. Do you remember it? Because it's much more powerful if you say it, but I'm happy to share it.
I do, as I help business owners in overwhelm.
Yeah. Okay. So let me actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to correct that.
Okay.
So
I'm going by memory, so maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah. Oh, no. You did good with a teeny caveat. What you've been taught, you did exactly what you were taught. You were taught that you start with, I help, I serve, right? That's what we were taught. The CPOP, however, is not about you. The CPOP, so this is my clarity statement, is I've articulated into 2 things. It's called your customer point of possibilities, and it's about your customer. Because when somebody says, who are you? What do you do? Even though they have asked you that question, they don't want you to sell them. And as soon as you say, I help or I serve or I deliver, it starts becoming about you. And even though they asked, they might be afraid that you're going to try to sell them something. So what you want to do is this concept, and I will, there's a secret formula, and I will give you the secret formula.
Ooh.
Okay. The secret formula in less than 10 words is comprised of two pieces. First is the who. The second is from their perspective. Now, the who is 1, 2, or 3 words. So for you, it was small businesses, right? Small business owners, to be specific. And for me, it's coaches. But I will finish. Mine is 8 words. Yours is 5. So the second part of it, like I said, it's from their perspective. What is the pain point they're trying to overcome, or what is the pleasure point they want to reach? So the 5 words we came up for you: small business owners in overwhelm.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
so
that's probably what you did tell me, but I was going off of memory. And so I came pretty close. I just violated the I help. And we see those all over social media, by the way.
So here's what's interesting. So if I was standing, and let me do there's a superpower I have. When I know somebody's CPOP, and if I had a conversation, I could even add a little bit more. But if I know somebody's CPOP, I can do the tell me more. And so if you don't mind, Mark, I'm going to do, since we're recording, I'm going to do your CPOP and tell me more. And I'll do my CPOP and tell me more. And then the audience could be listening for, who are these guys?
There, I want to make sure people, you use the word CPOP a couple times. I want to make sure they go, okay, wait, what is CPOP? So let's make sure you're very clear. What is CPOP before we go into the exercise?
Absolutely. So CPOP is an acronym. It stands for Customer Point of Possibilities. And to be very clear, it is in less than 10 words where you are executing on your purpose today.
Okay.
If you could go through life understanding what your current CPOP is, your customer point of possibilities, what happens is you have a compass. That compass allows you to make better decisions, demonstrate better behavior. And by better, it is decisions and behaviors that are in alignment with your compass. And when you do that, people see you as more credible, more integrity, more internal and external integrity, more authenticity. In essence, they're seeing you as someone who is saying what they say. And if you could reinforce that online, when you're not in the room, you're also reinforcing who you are.
Makes sense.
All right. So when somebody says, who are you? Here's the hard part, Mark, is at the moment, maybe somewhere between 50 to 100,000 people know what the word CPOP means. So no one's going to go to you and say, what's your CPOP? But they're going to say, who are you? So the way I've expressed this is what you want to do is prepare people for, in your case, your 5 words. So the way you would say it is, hey, there's a client base I'm attracted to, or there's a set of clients that I serve the best, right? It's something where, because once again, the CPOP itself is not about you, right? So there's a set of clients I add value to, or the set of clients that really benefits from what I do. Pause. Small business owners in overwhelm. Pause. And so now let me tell you a little bit more, right? So now listen, if you're listening to this, I've said small business owners in overwhelm. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something less than a minute, right? So listen, if you're a small business owner, by definition, you have so much stuff going on. You're bringing clients in the door. You're servicing your clients. You're trying to make sure you have employees, if you have any, that you're servicing, and it gets crazy. There's no on off switch. You're continually on. And at some point in time, you get so much in overwhelm that you have an opportunity for your business to blow up or for you to blow up personally. If you work with me, I help you fix that. Okay. Now, dude, there's a lot of things you do in terms of I help with you to fix that, right? But at the moment, you're not selling. notice what's interesting. You painted a canvas of the place you play, and at the end you say, I do this. Let me try it again. If you don't mind, can I try mine?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, by the way, I never thought I would actually have an audience that's as fine-tuned as coaches. Now, when you hear my Tell Me More, I'm going to expand it to also be small business owners. That's where we have an overlap, right? Mm-hmm. So there's an audience that I work with that I add a lot of value to. Coaches who've created a job, not a business. Now, let me tell you, this is for the coach. This is for consultants. These are for small businesses where there's really one or two primary rainmakers. And they've been taught, in many cases, they've been certified how to do transformation, how to bring a company or an individual from A to B. But there's something that they kind of suck at. They're not really good at business development. They can't get the referral partners to refer enough business to them. They're sitting there trying to figure out, what do I do next to get more business in the door? We have a Done With You program where they get a coach, a mastermind, leads on a weekly basis, and we help them create their business. So the reason I say it this way and are very specific, and thanks for remembering yours and remembering yours with the I help and I serve, right? The reason I say that is when you now listen, and feel free, if you're listening or watching, go back and listen to both of those. Think about how much clarity and incremental credibility that has been delivered in a minute. Right? We did, it's 1 to 2 seconds, 1 to 3 seconds with both of our CPOPs. And then that minute was, oh my God, that's credible. It's enough time for, and here's the cool part, Mark, the person who's listening when let's say you're speaking in front of a group of 30 or you're speaking to a person of one, that one person is one of 3 types of people. They're either a referral partner, they're either a prospect, or there's somebody who doesn't care. It doesn't mean they don't care about you. It just means they don't care about the playground you play in. They don't care about your CPOP, right? So if they are a referral partner or a prospect, there is a very natural question that will happen. If you can, in a minute, do the type of clarity and get credibility the way you do, there's a very natural question that the CPOP will lead on is tell me more. After you do the tell me more, that 1 minute thing, that's a time where they're going to say, you know what? I have somebody I want to recommend to you. Do you mind if I share you directly? Or they might say, hey, listen, if they're a little bit more protective of their network, there's somebody I'm really thinking of recommending you. Can we make more time so I learn a little bit more? And by the way, notice my default is the person I'm talking to is a referral partner, not a client. Because if the default is you're talking to a client, once again, you jump into sales mode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you, first of all, what I got out of that, it's essentially a 3-act play in under a minute. Because the listener or the viewer watched or listened, you set up, you actually imagine T-ball. You put the ball on the tee. That's the first act. The second act is, in my case, small business owners in overwhelm. And then to tell me more. So it's a 3-act play in less than a minute. Now, people's time is valuable. People's time is valuable. When people, you specialize in credibility. A lot of people, what do? I'm an author. And I remember I had a guest on my show a number of years ago. He said, you got to always have 2 questions in your mind. Who cares and so what? I don't care if you're an author. You're a coach, podcaster. Who cares? So what? And I think your CPOP answers those questions. Who cares and so what? And I think anybody listening to this show, I wish these were my questions. I don't remember who told me that for the first time. Would think about this. Whenever you say something, whenever you post something on social media, ask yourself, who cares? So what? I think if everyone stopped, whether you're trying to talk to a prospect, a client, referral, doesn't matter. Who cares? So what? Which your CPOP nails. I think we would be a lot more successful in our business if we agree with that.
Yes. By the way, I like the 3-act play in less than a minute. I will use that again. So thank you.
My pleasure. Hey, I'm glad you got value out of the show too.
Yeah.
You talked about the default, and a lot of people are defaulted to this. This is called a phone if you're listening to the audible. And I want to encourage the listener or the viewer. What is your default? Is your default, I'm a coach, I'm an author, I help people, I serve people, I. Is that your default? Maybe. And at the end of the show, Mitchell's going to tell you how you can get a hold of him. Maybe you need to address that. Maybe that's why your business is not growing. Because when you meet people, you're doing I. And people go, what about me? Because we all know every prospect's favorite radio station is WIIFM. No, WIIFM. Too many I's there. What's in it for me? It's not WIIFY. What's in it for you? In other words, the business person. So, I really, this is why I wanted to have you on the show. I think CPOP is powerful because it shouldn't be about us. It should be about the prospect or the referral.
Yep. Yeah, it's what I was going to say before. It's really fascinating to answer the question, should we all be doing this? The answer is yes. If you go back to what I said up front, I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility and deployed credibility for 3.5 years until I realized, and by the way, when I would deploy credibility with somebody, the first thing I'd ask them is for them to tell me their CPOP and to get clarity. And as soon as I realized that clarity came first, everything in my business fell into place. Created 5 new products. It just worked. Now, you might be saying, Mitchell, you gave me the secret formula. Why'd you do that? Right? And I did. The CPOP, Customer Point of Possibilities, is less than 10 words. It's where you're executing on your purpose. It is the who, and then from their perspective, the pain point and pleasure point. That is the secret formula. Okay, why'd you do this? I did this because, and it's your question, but let's put it in the other direction. We've been taught so many marketing cookie cutter stuff in terms of who we are and how we show up in business that I can give this formula to 100 people and 90. And by the way, when I was doing the interviews, I'd send people a 16-minute video ahead of time. I'd ask them, did you watch the video? And in the video, I would say, and I started that somewhere around interview 50 or 100. And I go, listen, first question I'm going to ask you is, what's your CPOP? 98% of people will not get their CPOP properly because they'll put in the I help, I serve. They'll put in the marketing cookie cutter stuff. So I am specifically looking for you to be the 2%. Are you the 2%? And so inevitably, even though they thought about it, they got the video, they got the formula, and people would say, Mitchell, I'm part of the 2%. Great. What's your CPOP, right? Because we do the green room stuff ahead of time. There would still be something in there that had a marketing cookie cutter bent to it. And so the answer is, if we all had clarity, life would be so much more simple. Life would be so much easier. In my thought process, we would be much more humane to each other if we did nothing more than we were clear of who we are and how we showed up. And when you met someone like Mark or someone like Mitchell and they said what they did and you said, got it. And because guess what? I don't say what I say. You don't say what you say unless you deliver what you say. So that level of authenticity, that level of vulnerability, I talk about things I don't do, that level of having the intent and commitment to do the right thing is something that's important to me. And so it's really, life would be different. And so I'm giving it away because unfortunately, even with the formula, it's going to be hard for the listener or the viewer to go, oh, I got that. Great. Send me a note. Tell me what you got. I'd be curious to hear it.
Yeah. What's interesting, I was listening to an Alex Ramosi podcast last couple of days, and he said, you take your best product. This is mind-blowing to any business leader or entrepreneur, solopreneur, take your best stuff, give it away for free. For the very reason you just said, most people aren't going to do anything with it. So just give the best stuff away. Now, when we had our conversation about a month ago, and you gave me my CPOP, which I'm very grateful for, the reason why you gave it to me is I shared a story with you. I'm known as Mr. Productivity. And yet, I have not had a single client come to me, or a prospect, I should say, Mark, I want to be more productive. And at first, I didn't realize this. They were coming to me and they were saying, I am so overwhelmed. Too many projects, too many tasks, too many things on my to-do list. And then when you heard that, you picked it up. Now, I'm not going to go get Mr. Overwhelmed. But my point is, I started paying attention to that. I'm like, isn't that interesting? They want to be more productive, but the words they were using was overwhelmed. That's why in my CPOP, you put small business owners, my target market, in overwhelm. Not small business owners who want to be productive, but in overwhelm. And that really resonates with me.
You know, what's really interesting, and when I look at a CPOP, and the old marketing rules, in this case, the 80-20 rules apply, that 80% of the time, the CPOP will be the pain point, right? Versus 20% being the pleasure point. When I've noticed this, and I've now done over 1,000 CPOPs by the way, just my challenge, any human, I could do it for a human, I could do it for a company. Done it over 1,000 times. This is something that I'm particularly good at. And this is, and that's, if you follow through the stuff I do afterwards, this is what I do with people. And we've got a number of different ways for you to get your own CPOP. What's interesting is in many cases, you go for the pleasure point really in two primary cases. One, when who you serve is a CEO, i.e. somebody with a lot of ego, right? So you want to do the pleasure point versus the pain point because the CEO doesn't want to sit up as much as they should sit up and be vulnerable and say, hey, I need help here. You want to do the pleasure point. And also, if you're dealing with somebody where the audience has had such a traumatic experience, i.e. rape victims or cancer patients, you want to do the pleasure. Those are two scenarios where you want to do the pleasure point. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, small business owners in overwhelm, when you say those words and you're speaking to the spouse of a small business owner in overwhelm, you are speaking to the proper referral partner, right? Just think about it,
yep.
Right? And by the way, here's the cool part. If you do nothing more, you're speaking to the spouse of the small business owner in overwhelm. You do your tell me more specifically targeted to that person. You could just be quiet at that stage. You don't need any more information. That person's going to say, hey, listen, I need to have my spouse talk to you. Great, done. Right? Because it's when you're at a networking event or when you first meet somebody, you're not going to close right away. You're going to want that detail, like the conversation you and I had when I was hearing you, because I've seen you before. I've watched who you are and how you show up. And I love the concept of Mr. Productivity. And I think one of my first questions was, so does Mr. Productivity get people to go, I want to buy your stuff? And you're like, oh, well, no. So great tagline. And by the way, what's really interesting about having a CPOP, think about this. If you're listening to this, think about this. Small business owners in overwhelm. Does the tagline, Mr. Productivity, fit? So if you think about the compass pointing north, does Mr. Productivity fit in that playground? That's just, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Here's where it gets funny. When somebody actually gets their CPOP, and just to be clear, let me add one more concept and then we'll come back to what I was thinking. The concept is your CPOP represents your core values. Okay. Right? It typically is a playground. And I use this word specifically. If if you don't love what you do and your CPOP is not a playground that you love playing in, go and find another CPOP. Go and find another job. Go and do. We have one life to live. I'm not talking about religion or any of this stuff. Just go and do what you love doing. And we are of nature interested in serving other people. The most credible people are of service to others. So who is the audience you serve? And typically you are serving that audience because it's an audience that you can relate to. At some point in time, you had some kryptonite that was in the way. You overcame that kryptonite. Your superpower now is serving the audience that was, in your case, your personal kryptonite in the past. That is most true with many people. So here's what's interesting. You, in your CPOP, are expressing your core values into the world. Well, you start attracting those people who are looking for those core values. Mm-hmm. And that's why when you're talking to the spouse of the small business owner in overwhelm, all you need to do is they need to feel that you're good at what you do. They need to feel that you authentically care about helping the small business owner in overwhelm. They don't give a shit about, excuse the curse word. They don't care about Mr. Productivity. Mm. I mean, that adds to your credibility, but they don't need that right away. What they need is they need to know that you care about helping their spouse get out of overwhelm.
100%. Now, I got a couple things. I want to ask your permission for something because you already asked me for permission something. If I give you 3 different companies, are you confident enough you can give us a CPOP right on the podcast, or you'd say, look, I can't do that live and we'll just skip this?
I am not convinced. We could try it.
Okay.
Okay. Before we try it, the issue is when I think it's not just about marketing words, right? Okay. It has to do with how the executive management team has structured the branding of the company and how the employee base are structured to make things work.
Okay. Well, we're not going to go big. We're going to go more practical. I'm going to try to make these like easy for you. So after listening to people tell me for 2 years, I shouldn't be cutting my own lawn, I actually went out and got someone to cut my lawn. He does a way better job than I ever could. So if you were to sit down with my lawn guy, and that's all he does, he cuts people's lawns and makes them look amazing. What is the first thought? I know this is putting you on the spot. What would be your first thought for a CPOP for a lawn guy?
Well, if you don't mind, we will build this together.
Okay.
Right. Exercise. So the first question is the who. Mm-hmm. So who is the audience?
Homeowners.
So let's be very specific. Homeowners in a specific geography.
Okay. Let's say Houston, Texas, where I live.
Okay. So we'll just say Houston homeowners. And what's the biggest either pain point or pleasure point?
I'm going to say we're doing this in the August of 2024. It's hot outside, so I don't want to be outside because my outside's not air conditioned. I'd rather be inside talking to Mitchell on the podcast than cut my own lawn.
That's interesting. So
now, for those of you listening, you're missing seeing the smoke come out of Mitchell's ears. He's thinking really hard here.
So the question becomes, is that the one thing that's going to attract people's attention? Is it normally, by the way, same with me, we actually ended up getting rid of our lawn, but when I bought the house, I mowed the lawn for the first 1 or 2 times. I'm like, yeah, no, not anymore. And it just wasn't fun, right? I didn't enjoy it. I liked the look. I didn't like the activity, right? So for me, it's not wanting to spend time on my lawn, right? So what do you think the biggest either pain point or not being outside and obviously not being outside in hot weather?
For me, that's not the reason why I don't cut my own lawn. I don't cut my own lawn is because that's not my, to use your word earlier, superpower. This guy, his superpower is making people's lawns look awesome. When he's outside doing that, I'm doing what I love to do, coaching clients, conducting podcast interviews, networking. So having him cut my lawn allows me to do what I really love to do because I'm like you. It doesn't matter what season it is, doesn't matter what temperatures. I'll cut it once in a while. I still have a lawnmower. And it's not that it's beneath me. It's just that this guy does an incredible job. He really cares. It's like every lawn he cuts is his own. And he takes a tremendous amount of pride in it. And so he gets to do what he loves to do and get paid for it. And I get to do what I love to do and get paid for it.
Got it. Huh. What's the end product? Is it a pretty lawn? Is it when he's done?
Time. For me, it's more time to do what I want to work. That's the first thing that comes to me. The pretty lawn is secondary. The primary one is the fact I get to spend more time doing what I love to do. Whether that's working in my business, spending time with my wife or my dogs, it gives me more time, more freedom. Now, I'm an outlier because I'm an entrepreneur working from home. Now, Mrs. Jones down the street, she may have, her reason may be she physically can't cut her own lawn. So obviously, this is probably a bad example to work through because every client's probably got a different reason. It's probably like maybe 3 or 4 major reasons why people hire a lawn guy to cut their lawn. But so I probably
no.
Here.
Dude, no, this is a good one. Sometimes it's obvious. With you, it was obvious. It was somewhere in the first 5 to 10 seconds. With that exercise, we probably spent 3 or 4 minutes, but at some point in time, you stumbled upon the right words. Mm-hmm. So let me share what you said. So Houston lawn owners having more time for themselves.
I like that. Okay. You passed, Mitchell. Good job. Okay, so I want to get back to business because when we worked out my CPOP, and again, we get my note card here, so I don't say it incorrectly. Small business owners in overwhelm. Without your assistance, I tried to craft that into a tagline for social media. So one of the questions I want to ask is, okay, so we got the CPOP, small business owners in overwhelm. Well, you can't, you need more words on your social media headline, whether it's for X, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. So how do we take, like in my case, 5 words? Because if I put that on my X or LinkedIn, people go, oh, okay, it's incomplete. It's like an incomplete sentence. So how do you recommend people, once they get their CPOP, to take that and put it on, like, for example, your LinkedIn headline?
I actually, in my LinkedIn headline, I have my CPOP as is.
Oh, okay.
Right. So if you actually go to LinkedIn and yours, I would put your CPOP as is.
Okay.
Now, what I would do in your about section is whatever you say for the tell me more, that would be your about section.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. Now, let's take it a step further. I'd also do a recording. I would do a recording of your CPOP and tell me more and put that in your featured section.
Okay.
Right. Now, the other thing I want people to recognize is that it is more than just words. Your CPOP is your North Star. Right. So now when you're thinking about when somebody comes to you with, are you ready? The next great marketing idea, compare it to your CPOP. So if we're talking about Houston lawn owners, with having more time for themselves, that may not work for the person who's retired and more time doesn't make sense, right? That may not work for somebody who's in Dallas, right? So, if a marketing idea came and it was geographically more than just Houston. Well, why are we doing that today? Right. So it represents a compass in which you can make decisions that are in alignment with who you are and who you serve.
That is important because a lot of people, like I like focusing on small business owners, and people ask me, well, what if a solopreneur wanted help? Can you help them? I said, well, yeah, I can. My passion is small business owners, but solopreneurs, I can help you. Now, if you say, well, I'm a 11th grade high school student, can you help me? I probably can. I mean, I believe I know enough about productivity that I can cater for anybody. But if you start going too far away from to use your words, North Star, well, some things that will work for 11th grader may not work for someone who's a small business owner. And the farther you get away, it's like here in the Gulf Coast, we have like the cone of uncertainty. We're all familiar with those words from when the hurricanes come. Okay. And dead center is your North Star. But as the further you go out in the cone of uncertainty, it becomes uncertain. And so the further you, oh yeah, I can do 11th graders. Oh, I can do stay-at-home moms. Oh, I can do, and all of a sudden now your message becomes watered down. Now you're not just small business owners. You're like, anybody needs my help. And I made that mistake when I started my business. Oh, I can help anybody. Can I? A good chance I probably can, but I need to focus on my target market, which is small business owners.
So here's what's really interesting. There's so many ways to do business. My solution is a done with you solution. And the reason I'm doing the done with you is it's about transformation. And I need to be with those clients I work with. So I watch them transform themselves. Now, the methodologies and the approaches of what I do also works for people outside my audience. So let's talk about those people, typically 10% of the population, who likes to give them the information they want to do it themselves, the DIYers. Or let's talk about those people, in this case, for you, solopreneurs and high school kids, who they may be perfect for you. They may be great, but they're not going to spend the money that you want to charge them. So what happens is after you've deployed your solution a number of times to your target audience, you then can mechanize it. You create an online course. So if you want to get and take a 1-hour course that will allow you to get your CPOP, I've got one, right? And so it's this way I can service people outside my target audience, because here's what's interesting. Clarity is something that 98% of business people don't have. So the partners that I'm looking for, Mark, are people just like you. I'm looking for partners who want to help their clients solve an issue. And one of the bigger issues, they're in overwhelm, most likely because they don't have clarity. You give them clarity and the tool sets you deliver, and they get more. So what I want you to do is I want you to gift them, whether it's that you tell them to take the online course or you send them to one of I do a clarity session, 90-minute clarity. You send them to that. As a matter of fact, you could come with them. And as they're getting clarity, they need to sort of live in their clarity. That's having a clarity guide. So without you necessarily having to gift them the gift of clarity, you could bring them to a clarity session, be with them, understand that that's really the playground they should play in, and you could help them live their North Star. And that's so for me, when I think about my partners, people doing really cool stuff today, they may even have clarity, quote unquote, bundled into their systems, but it's not the simplistic clarity that comes from your CPOP. And so you could learn it, you could train it, you could figure it out, or hey, bring them to an expert who can give them this gift and now help them live the gift. Because the world here's the downside. I've helped deliver the CPOP to over 1,000 people. The downside is that 90% will forget it somewhere between 2 hours and 2 weeks. Like you did. Not that you forgot it, you sort of remembered it, but you didn't sit down and practice it. You didn't sit out. I mean, you started doing some changes to who you are because you knew it was important, this is not me giving you a hard time. It's just simply the world wants to bring you back to normal, and normal is I help, I serve, I do this,
Yep.
right? And so you need a guide, right? So, I call this CPOPing. I have a CPOPing program. If you fit my audience, you could join my CPOPing program. Guess what? Mark, you have a CPOPing program, right? So many of us who are delivering, we actually have CPOPing program. Think about it in a different way versus the term CPOPing. What you're doing is once you know the person's North Star, who they are and how they should show up in the world, you're helping them, in your case, the small business owner, play in their North Star and not being overwhelmed. That's your CPOPing program.
I love it, because the first thing I talk to when I get a new client, if we talk about clarity, they think they're coming to me because they want to become better time management or better planners or name it. And the first coaching session is always clarity. And they're like, no. I'm clear. Let's talk about planning. I say, well, humor me. Let's talk about what you want. And as I start talking to them, they're like, I don't know the answer. And they try to write things down. I said, don't worry, AI is going to record this conversation. Just talk to me. Because I believe what you said, a high number. I don't remember if you said 80 or 90% of businesses aren't clear. A lot of people aren't clear. They aren't clear. They think they're clear. And the reason why they think they're clear, they've never gone to a coach or a clarity guide. And I think you are never going to get to the point where you're 100% clear, because life changes and different things happen, like we had COVID and stuff like that. And I think it's something you need to be revisiting. So what I did with yours, you gave it to me, and then I tried to freelance it. And I went in, I think in my CPOP, I changed it to, I help small business leaders, small business owners in overwhelm. And you're like, no, don't put that word in there. And because we want to go back to our default. I want to help. And I can tell you, based on this conversation, I'm going to make some more tweaks to my social media, and some social media expert, well-meaning, obviously not, coached in CPOPing, they're going to say, no, you got to see I serve, I help, because that's what we have been told for years and years and years. But it's that first word. It's not so much the second word. It's the first word, I. Well, how attractive is that to a prospect when your first word is I, me? It's all about me. I want your money. Give me your credit card for my bank account. It's like, and then we wonder why we lose sales, because we're starting with the wrong word. It's one letter, but that one letter is making it about us, as you said so eloquently in the beginning of the show, instead of making it about you. Because if someone's interested in your services, they don't want to hear the word I or my or me. They want to hear, hey, here are my issues. And if your CPOP is done correctly, first of all, if you say small business owners in overwhelm, let me see, I'm not a small business owner, I'm in overwhelm. Well, maybe I can still talk to this guy, but if you're like Tony Robbins, is he overwhelmed? Yes. Is he going to invest in Mr. Productivity? Probably not. But that's okay, because there's 8 billion people on the planet today.
It's you just articulate, there were like at least 3 or 4 different ways to jump off there, but I'll pick one. You just articulated what happens, why 98% of people don't have clarity. When I spend time with them, they are in harmony. Like we as humans, we vibrate at a frequency. When you have your CPOP and it represents your frequency, it is the words that represent how you vibrate, how you serve. It feels good and you're not even sure why, right? Because you're in harmony with who you are. You're actually echoing out loud the frequency of what your body wants to do, what your mind wants to do. Then some expert is going to say exactly what you said. Hey, you can't do it this way. You have to do it this other way. And they may be well-intentioned. Some are not, but they may be well-intentioned. And when you start changing the words that represent your frequency, you get yourself out of frequency. And that's what I see happening. And so that's why I actually have my CPOPing program, and why I now realize that I am in partnership with other people who have their CPOPing programs. I'm just reminding them, hey, listen, I know you got because everyone has a clarity piece at front. I know you have a clarity piece, but can they actually, is it their North Star and can they do it in less than 10 words? Right. And they're like, oh, no, Mitchell, okay, great. Let's play together. Right. And by the way, when I know somebody's CPOP, it makes it easier for me to recommend them because I think in terms of CPOP terms.
I just wrote down here again, so I wouldn't, because repetition is the mother's skill. I wrote down small business owners, and in a separate column, I wrote in overwhelm. Here's the good thing. It's plug and play. So if I want to change my target market to solopreneurs in overwhelm. If I wanted to change it to, well, I would do this, but stay-at-home moms. Not that there's anything wrong with stay-at-home moms. In overwhelm is still going to be there. I could just, the first part, the who, I can keep changing that. So if you do the CPOP correctly, and you leave the second part, which it's got to be there because that's what you do, and just, zookeepers in overwhelm, pilots in overwhelm.
Yep.
Not exact. What I'm saying is that obviously the people have to be in overwhelm. Obviously, I'm not going to say dogs in overwhelm. That'd be crazy. But I could do something, switch it out from solopreneurs in overwhelm. It would fit. I understand, like the cone of uncertainty. The further you get away from small business owners, you may run into it gets a little gray. So forgive me, you are the expert. I'm just saying that it is a way the who can be changed because I see people on LinkedIn. 1 year they're this, and next year they're this, and next year they're this. And I've been doing this since 2011. And it seems like they try something, doesn't work, and they try something else, doesn't work. They keep changing their title instead of giving it enough time to grow. As they water it and nourish it, they're looking for that guaranteed money, okay, which there is nothing guaranteed in the world. You have to work at it, and you'll have some good days and bad days, good years and bad years. But my point is I could very easily switch out small business leaders, small business owners for solopreneurs. But if I go too far away from those two groups, it would get a little gray.
This is interesting. So, Mark, were you in overwhelm at some point in time and then overcame that? Was that?
Of course.
Yeah. Right. So that was a kryptonite that you overcame to become a superpower. As you were talking, I was thinking about guys like Michael Gerber, who did the E-Myth. And then it's the E-Myth in orthodontist, E-Myth in dentistry, the E-Myth. So I'm going to say I agree. And for me, although I start with the word coaches, I have a partner I'm working with who's bringing me into the fractional executive world. And the point is, fractional execs are exactly the same as coaches in terms of what I solve. I mean, exactly the same. So I want to be able to do this in two verticals, very, very specific verticals, coaches, then fractional execs, before I then make what I do horizontal. Right. So I'm going to say, I don't know if I want to make it a universal truth, but the examples I thought about all said yes to what you said. If you love the concept of in overwhelm, if that's going to be the place you play it for maybe your whole life, but for quite some time, what's interesting is if you end up with somebody who had, let's say stay-at-home moms, if you ended up partnering with somebody who's stay-at-home, maybe what you do is you take that product that you have, you put it into an online course, and you do it as a joint course with that person who's also reaching out. And that would be a fun partner. Right. Is, hey, listen, I got most of this. I got the course done, but why don't we update the course for stay-at-home moms? And why don't you be the first person booked? Right. And now you could use this course, and it's online. Just add it to your programs. Because at the end, it's the in overwhelm, and then you're in your bio, you say, hey, listen, this stuff works. It works for stay-at-home moms. Guess what? It also works for small business owners in case there's someone who you want to recommend. And that's in your bio.
I think I did a poor job of giving my suggestion. I wasn't saying to have like the chicken soup for the soul for lawyers and plumbers and attorneys. What I was saying is I'm not feeling small business owners, so I'm not going to do small business owners and solopreneurs. I would switch to solopreneurs and overwhelmed, or I would switch to college students and overwhelmed. I wouldn't have all these verticals, because I think you have to grow one vertical. This is a mistake a lot of people make, and I made early in the game. Oh, I can help everybody. You probably can help everybody if you're good at what you're doing, but would you be as effective rather than if you laser focused on something? And I think a lot of people, they're like, well, I'm a productivity expert for lawn guys and for airline pilots and lawyers and CPAs. You probably could help everyone, but let's pick a lane. Let's get really good at that lane. Let's get so we can drive the road without, well, keep your eyes open, but not paying as much attention. And then when you get really good at that one lane, that one vertical, then you can come over and say, okay, you know what? I keep hearing from this other group over here that needs my help. Then add it. I think a lot of people are trying to add too many things at once, and they're like, nothing's happening. Well, because people are confused. And we use the word clarity a lot. If you are trying to build a business, people feel really comfortable with you if you're clear. If you, the coach, is clear. If you offer all these courses for all these people, I've had coaches like this before. They help everybody. I'm like, well, you listed me back then as a solopreneur. You listed me, but then you listed all these other 12 people. And I'm like, and I got really confused about
that. Mark, I didn't know where you were coming from. So you and I are speaking the same language. The example I gave, because of your example, was if you're going to do the stay-at-home moms, that's not a course that you market or do anything with. It's a course that you gifted, whether there's money at all, to the person who's already in that space, who is growing their space. You just happen to be the overwhelm guy that gave them an access to an asset, right? Which, because same for me with clarity at the moment, it's really about coaches. That said, I'm not aggressively doing anything in the fractional exec, but I have a partner, and he's got a paid group and a free group, and he's bringing me into both. He's already paid me to be part of his paid group, and he's bringing me into how do we get more people into the free group that he then can convert into the paid, right? And so what's interesting is, although I am not selling into that market, I am still selling to coaches. And so when I'm talking to the fractional execs and I gave them value, and then he's doing his CPOPing thing, I go, by the way, you got any coaches in your network that are at the companies you're working at, bring them my way, right? And so it's a win-win, because in this case, it's Paul Jones I'm working with. Paul is actually using the clarity guy to get more fractional execs into the room. So so in your case, using that example, you could have the person responsible for dealing with stay-at-home moms using the overwhelm guy, the productivity guy, to allow them to make more business. At some point in time, the stay-at-home moms may have your client market as a spouse. Right now, that's the reason for that thing. It's I agree with you. It's really simple. Clarity means that your audience knows that you care about them and you serve them. The more people this is one of those marketing cookie cutter. The bigger the number of people you serve, the bigger the number of audiences, the lower amount of fish. We've been taught the cast is big fish net, bigger fish nets, more clients. The more narrow you could be, the better it is. And that's the interesting part. So grab your CPOP, be as focused. I just did an exercise this morning with a client that was, the CPOP was amazing. It was marketing leaders struggling with company acceleration. Now, it was okay until I said, well, what vertical you work in? He goes, construction. I go, oh my goodness. Let's make sure let's add to the CPOP construction marketing leaders struggling with acceleration. And then all of a sudden it took like an okay CPOP into something powerful, because if you think about construction firms, definitely are not typically known for fast acceleration of growth. Mm-hmm. And if you think about that, it's very focused, right? It's very specific. He was jumping. He was almost doing backflips when I share that, because he's like, oh, wow. And he was one of the 10%. They're 10% of the population when they get their CPOP and they see where they go. Because the first words out of his mouth, oh my God, I need to change my marketing material. I'm like, great. Like, I love that. Right. I'm like, got it. You're the 10%. Let's play together. Right. So,
wow. Well, before we wrap up, I want to know what piece of information, because we gave the people a lot on this conversation, but I know that people don't tend to re-listen to podcasts, although you can do that. And they're probably out running, walking the dog, on a plane, and they had nothing to write with. What is one piece of wisdom that you share with us today you want to make sure the listener leaves with? And then after that, tell us where we can go to find out more about you and what you're doing in the world.
98% of those that are listening do not have clarity, and 90% are born, live, and die without ever knowing their purpose. Get your CPOP, your customer point of possibilities. It is simply the who you serve, very detailed, and as specific as you can, and either their pain point or pleasure point. And the CPOP represents where you are executing on your purpose today. And if you could do that, you're going to be so much further along than the majority of those people who you would call your competitors. You're actually going to stand out, and you will no longer have those as competitors. So get the level of clarity of where you're executing on your purpose and live it, and you'll start noticing that life is changing.
And where can people go to find out more about you?
Best way, just go to the website. It's mitchelllevy.com, MITCHELLLEVY.com. There you could see we do monthly. We're doing a clarity session. You could see the programs we have. And if you decide it's important to book time on the calendar, you can get direct access to my calendar. So it's mitchelllevy.com.
Okay. And if you are listening to this on audio, please go check out the video on Spotify, X, Facebook, or YouTube, and Rumble, because Mitchell has that's a fedora, right?
Yes, it is.
you don't. That's one of the things you don't get on audio. You don't see his fedora. So if you want to check out his fedora, it looks really snazzy. And don't forget to head on over to my website, MrProductivity.com, MISTER, MrProductivity.com. I'll be back real soon with a brand new episode. Until then, stay productive and stay positive.